been fired. But, he said Thursday, as of tomorrow morning, 2 officers will no longer be employed by the city of Omaha. He said that the 2 officers are Scotty Payne, a 5-year veteran of the force, and Ryan McClarty, a 2-year veteran. Police Chief Todd Smotterer has recommended the firing of both officers because of their conduct during a 73-minute encounter on June 5 that led to the death of Zachary Bearheels, age 29, of Oklahoma. During the incident, Payne used his taser on Bearheels 12 times, and McClarty punched the man multiple times as he sat on the ground. In this incident, despite our extensive training, we failed, Smotterer said in June. The Omaha Police Department made a mistake on this occasion, and we're doing whatever we need to do to correct it. Sergeant John Wells, president of the police union, didn't immediately return a phone message Thursday. But TV station KETV7 reported that the union planned to appeal the decision. When police officers are fired, they have an option of appealing the decision to either an independent arbitrator or the city's personnel board. Douglas County Attorney Don Klein said he still is reviewing reports before deciding whether to file charges against the officers. An autopsy said that Bearheels suffered a sudden death associated with excited delirium, physical struggle, physical restraint, and use of the taser. Smotterer promised Smotterer promised several changes within the police department after Bearheels' death, including a recruit class of experienced officers and more training on mental illness and the use of a taser. Bearheels was a member of the Rosebud Sioux of South Dakota, and after Native American activists raised concerns about how he was treated, Mayor Gene Stauffer agreed to create a Native American advisory board.
From the Lincoln Journal-Star, an effort to bring Nebraska's landline era 911 system into the smartphone age is trudging forward, but it's unclear how soon emergency dispatchers will be able to harness technologies such as live streaming video or iPhone photos of crime scenes. If anything, a hearing Thursday at the state capitol showed just how far there is to go. The Nebraska Public Service Commission and public safety consulting firm Mission Critical Partners have studied the transition to next generation 911 since at least 2013 and were tasked by lawmakers last year with crafting a plan for its implementation. That report is due back to the legislature by December 1, but in a 100-page draft released ahead of Thursday's hearing, the consultants and the commission still hadn't settled on a path forward. Instead, the draft plan offers 3 options for the new system, ranging from a site-by-site revamp of the state's existing 911 centers to an overhaul that would combine all 70 centers, called Public Safety Answering Points, or PSAPs, into 6 or 10 regional locations. A decision there, whenever it comes, could rile up communities who fear losing their locally run 911 centers, or alternately frustrated next generation 911 backers who view the transition as a prime chance to consolidate services and save costs. Deployment will be a complicated and evolving process, said Eric Cady, a senior project manager at Mission Critical Partners during Thursday's hearing. Another lingering question is how much the upgrade will cost. Rough estimates in the report range from $6.3 million per year to $8.2 million, depending on which model is chosen. But several people predicted the price tag would be much higher. County 911 officials who testified Thursday fear much of the cost might fall to local taxpayers, or worse, that consolidation could hinder emergency services. Sometimes we don't ask ourselves the simple question of, are we getting better or worse? Said Columbus Police Captain Todd Thalken, who manages 911 in Platte County. While most local 911 officials say good things about the plan, nearly all raised concerns about whether a new way of distributing surcharges from people's phones bills to local PSAPs would be fair and properly account for the cost associated with the upgrades. David Sleeter, 911 director in Douglas County, said next generation 911 will require dispatchers to decipher things such as text messages and videos instead of just a caller's voice. I think people are not realizing the need for the training that's going to be involved and the additional staffing. None of those specifics can be sorted out until the Public Service Commission decides how it wants the new system to look, said Lowell Brooks, a wireless industry representative who chided Mission Critical and the commission for not crafting a more specific vision or timeline. This is not a plan. This is a consolidation of observations, Brooks said. For example, state law requires the commission to recommend a specific number of 911 centers that should be retained, but the draft said Mission Critical continues to support organic regionalization. It means that we're just going to design the system and let what happens happen, Brooks said. The report was crafted with input from law enforcement and rescue workers, the telecommunications industry, and state and local governments. David Sankey, the commission's 911 director, said his staff is still working with Mission Critical partners, and the final draft of their plan will reflect input from Thursday's hearing, written comments, and a second public hearing the commission will host sometime in September. In the meantime, 8 911 centers in Nebraska have added text to 911 capability, considered an interim step that relies on different technology than next-gen 911. In those communities, people can request emergency via text message or by phone call. While Lancaster County hasn't implemented text to 911, its PSAP is one of 23 across Nebraska that are in the process, said Public Service Commission spokeswoman Deb Collins.
Thank you, Bob. This story here from the Omaha World Herald about a camp that inspires and encourages visually impaired. 16-year-old Miranda Solsa pulled back the string of her bow and listened. A Camp Abilities Nebraska counselor told her to aim a little more to the right. Solsa adjusted and let her arrow fly. It punched the deer-shaped target with a thwack, and the blind archer broke into a grin. Archery was one of many activities young people enjoyed this week at Camp Abilities Nebraska at the Iowa School for the Deaf in Council Bluffs. The annual 6-day event seeks to build confidence and skills of blind, visually impaired, and deafblind youths through a variety of physical and character-focused activities. On Monday, campers aged 9 to 19 split into groups to practice archery and other sports. Inside the gym, campers slipped on knee pads and nightshades to play goal ball. With everyone's sight obscured by the shades, campers dove to prevent a jiggling ball from entering the goals. Outside, kids and counselors circled on tandem bikes. Glenn Raggy, a sports specialist for the camp, was an adapted physical education teacher with Millard Public Schools for 25 years. When he'd teach, there would often be only a few children with visual impairments in the class, and there was no way they could keep up with the games of the other kids. Their independence here is so much bigger than when they were at school, he said. Monday, Raggy was helping steer the tandem bikes, the scariest thing in the world for campers with balance troubles. Kids at camp are sometimes riding a bike for the first time. Salsa of Waverly said her first time at camp 4 years ago scared her mom so much she couldn't bring herself to sign the waiver allowing Salsa to climb a rock wall by herself. Salsa wasn't sure she could do it, but she wanted to try. Her dad signed the waiver. Salsa took off her prosthetic leg and climbed to the top twice. I felt so good about it. I wanted to do it again, she said. The Nebraska event is one of at least 26 camps this year, modeled after camp abilities in New York. Crystal Platt, Vision Program Coordinator for Boys Town National Research Hospital, was inspired by her own childhood experiences to help start the camp 5 years ago. Growing up with visual impairment, the exercise options were sparse for Platt in school, she said. I knew this was an area where kids had trouble, even every day, so the skills that they learn here, they can take back to their PE instructors, she said. Another skill counselors try to instill in campers is self-advocacy. Mackenzie Gray, a 15-year-old from Bellevue, said a lifeguard once pulled her out of a line for a slide and made her stand by the fence at the metro area pool because she was blind. She had slid down a similar slide at camp before, but she said she would have spoken up for herself, but she realized that that would have been useless. That's why I'm comfortable at camp, because everyone knows how everyone else feels, she said. Courtney Lorenz, the lead counselor for the camp, said many activities didn't need to be adjusted much in order to be enjoyed by the 21 campers. This is just another chance to see kids succeed, he said.
From the Lincoln Journal-Star, the prison warden, Lincoln prison warden, dies at age 62. The warden of the Lincoln Diagnostic and Evaluation Center and Lincoln Correctional Center has died. Warden Fred Britton, 62, died Wednesday following a brief battle with cancer, the Department of Correction Services announced Thursday. Britton began his career with the department in 1977 as a corrections counselor at the old reformatory. He served the state nearly 40 years, holding positions that included unit administrator, associate warden, and deputy warden. Britton was the first warden at the Tecumseh State Correctional Institution, where he served 13 years. In 2013, he returned to Lincoln, where he was appointed warden of the Diagnostic and Evaluation Center. Director Scott Frakes then appointed Britton to lead the Lincoln Correctional Center in July 2016. He was warden at both facilities until his death. In a news release, spokeswoman Dawn Renee Smith said a national search will be conducted to fill Britton's position. In the interim, the department's executive management officer, Jeffrey Wooten, will assume the role of acting warden of the two facilities. Smith said Britton often said he didn't plan for corrections to be his career. But 8 promotions and almost 40 years later, it remains clear that not only was this the right career for him, but a profession that has significantly benefited as a result of his numerous contributions, she said. Britton earned a reputation for putting others first and working tirelessly to address the needs of his staff and the inmate population, she said. He was best known for his quick wit and unique sense of humor, Smith said. Fred was committed to being a servant leader and contributing to the success of those with whom he worked and supervised. His passion for mentoring and influencing others, the personal and professional growth of many of the NDCS staff members, his passing will have an impact on the entire NDCS family, she said. Frakes said Britton left an indelible legacy in the agency, and those who learned from him demonstrate the teamwork and can-do attitude he inspired. Fred was about solutions, always looking at what could be done rather than why it couldn't be done, Frakes said. Fred's leadership has been invaluable to me. He will be missed.
Thank you, Bob. In this article in the Omaha World Herald from Des Moines, ruling may expand special ed in Iowa. A judge's ruling could expand special education services to thousands of Iowa students. Administrative law judge Christy Scares recently ordered the Iowa Education Department to reimburse an Urbandale couple more than $1,000 for private tutoring they provided after their child was denied special education programming at the school, the Des Moines Register reported. An evaluation in 2014 showed that the child may have dyslexia, but the family struggled to have her qualify for special education services. After evaluation by University of Iowa Hospital and clinics, they strongly recommended that the girl receive an individualized learning plan, but one was never put in place. Scarzy wrote in her decision that the department should revisit its policies on determining who qualifies pardon me, for special education. She said the state shouldn't require students to be severely behind their peers before recognizing a disability. Thousands more of Iowa students could qualify for special education if the department were to alter its eligibility rules, said Randy Califf, vice president of the advocacy group Decoding Dyslexia, Iowa. The department is appealing the case to the U.S. District Court, seeking a declaration that its rules comply with federal law. This is one of those cases that may very well end up in the United States Supreme Court.
Thanks, Howard. We'll turn now to the obituaries and funeral arrangements in our respective papers. From the Lincoln Journal-Star, Bosinio, that's B-O-S-I-N-I-O, Leonard Allen Bosinio. He's a veteran, age 71, and was born in Pittsburgh, Kansas, served with the U.S. Naval Reserve in 1964. Funeral services will be held at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, July 26th at the Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home on 14th Street. In lieu of flowers, the family asks that a contribution be made to the Capital Humane Society of Lincoln or the Lincoln Animal Ambassadors. Cook, Stephen Edward Cook, a veteran, 92 years old, of Lincoln. Services at 3 p.m. Saturday, July 22 at Calvary Cemetery and Mausoleum at 3880 L Street in Lincoln. Bootheris, Mazer, and Love Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. DeVries, Forrest R. DeVries, age 60, born in Beatrice, passed away on July 17th. There will be a service at the Cortland Community Center in Cortland. In lieu of flowers, memorials suggested to the family for later designation. Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Dorf, Josepha Dorf, age 65, from Plattsmouth, passed away on July 15th. There is no funeral home listed. There is nothing regarding memorials. Hafner, Terry W. Hafner, a veteran, was from Firth, Nebraska originally. Services are at 11 a.m. Saturday at the Ralston United Church of Christ in Ralston, Nebraska. In lieu of flowers, memorials to the ALS organization, Bassett and Beagle Rescue of the Midlands, or to a charity of your choice. Heafy Hoffman DeWart Cutler on West Center is handling the arrangements. Herman, William J. Herman, age 74, of Fairbury, passed away July 15th. There is no funeral home listed, and that's all the information there is. Hotavi, I believe it's Hotavi, H-O-T-T-O-V-Y, Marie M. Hotavi, age 94, of David City, passed away on July 14th. There is no funeral listed or any funeral arrangements, funeral home listed. Lacey, Patricia A. Patty Lacey, age 64, of Lincoln, passed away July 17, 2017, was born in Lincoln. There will be a private family graveside service. Roper and Sons is handling the arrangements. Memorials to the Muscular Dystrophy Association of Nebraska on Y Street in Omaha. May, Vera M. May, age 94, passed away June 24. A memorial service will begin at 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday, July 26th at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home on 14th Street in Lincoln. No memorials are listed. Von Minden, Merle H. Von Minden, former state senator and Allen resident, 91 years old, passed away July 17th. Funeral services will be held at 10:30 a.m. on July 24th at Trinity Lutheran Church in Martinsburg. Doesn't say where Martinsburg is. Burial with military rites in Eastview Cemetery in rural Allen. It does not list what branch of the service he lifted with, but he was a veteran. Arrangements are being made under the direction of Moore Funeral Home in Ponca. In lieu of flowers, the family requests donations be made to Trinity Lutheran Church in Ponca, Nebraska. Nelson, Richard C. Nelson, age 71 of Milford, died July 17. Funeral service 10:30 a.m. Saturday, July 22nd at Calvary Community Church in Lincoln. Arrangements are being made by Lauber Moore Funeral Home in Milford. He was a veteran. Novak, David L. Novak, age 78 of Lincoln, died July 16th. Celebration of life will be 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday, July 22 at the VFW on West A Street in Lincoln. Aspen Aftercare is listed as handling the arrangements. Knoll, Gary E. Knoll, age 75, passed away July 16. City, Aspen Aftercare is handling the arrangements. There is no other information. Olson, Velma Olson, age 95 of St. Edward, formerly of Genoa, died Wednesday, July 19. Funeral service will be 10:30 a.m. July 24 at Genoa United Methodist Church. Memorials may be directed to the family. Ramakers, Patrick Funeral Chapel is handling the arrangements. Purcell, Nona R. Purcell, passed away July 18th of Lincoln. Funeral services will be 10 a.m. Saturday, July 21 at the United Methodist Church in Albion. Levander Funeral Home in Albion is handling the arrangements. There are no memorials listed. Russell, David A. Russell, age 67, passed away on July 16th. There is no funeral home listed or any information regarding the service. Schneider Jans, Mark James Schneider Jans, 66 of Lincoln, passed away July 18, was born in Pocahontas, Arkansas. Memorials may be given to O.H. Snyder Jan Scholarship Fund for Women and Minorities in the College of Business at UNL. No visitation, cremation. Colonial Chapel Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Smith, Oriella June Rhea Smith, passed away at 87 years old on July 18th. Funeral service 3 p.m. Saturday, 7:22 at Roper and Sons Chapel on O Street. Memorials to Union College for Dalrymple Smith Endowment Fund. Roper and Sons is handling the arrangements. Young, Leona M. Young, age 91 of Lincoln, formerly of Ithaca, passed away July 19. Funeral 10:30 a.m. Monday at Ithaca United Methodist Church in Ithaca. The Press-Nabity Funeral Home in Wahoo is handling the arrangements and memorials to American Cancer Society. Wickland, Roland Rowley, E. Wickland, age 64 of Lincoln, passed away July 17. He is was a U.S. Navy veteran. A celebration of life service will be held at 11 a.m. Saturday, 7:22 at Roper and Sons Funeral Home in Lincoln. There will be a cremation, no visitation. Memorial contributions in lieu of flowers can be made to the donor's choice. Roper and Sons is handling the arrangements. And my final listing is Whitler, Sharon E. Whitler, 81 of Fairbury. Services will be 10:30 a.m. Monday, July 24 at the First Baptist Church in Fairbury. Gertis Meyer Funeral Home in Fairbury is handling the arrangement.
Okay, thank you, Bob. This is from the Omaha World Herald. The first name is Benning, Dr. Donald R. Benning, age 80. Dr. Benning was an educator here in Omaha for many years. He is also a U.S. veteran. Funeral services will be Monday at 11 a.m. at St. John's AME Church. Family prefers memorials to North Omaha Boys and Girls Club or Girls Incorporated. Roeder Mortuary at 108th Street Chapel is in charge of arrangements. Blakesley, Eleanor Knowles Blakesley, died July 15, 2017. Memorial services for this 97-year-old woman will be held at Manning Chapel at Brown University on Monday, August 14th at 11 a.m. In lieu of flowers, consider donations to the Audubon Society or the Schoolhouse Museum in Eastham, Massachusetts. Arrangements are being handled through the Tucker Quinn Funeral Home in Greenville, Rhode Island. Davis, Arminta L. Davis, age 79, passed away July 17, 2017. Funeral services are 9 a.m. Saturday, New Life Presbyterian Church at 4060 Pratt Street. Thomas Funeral Homes are handling the arrangements. Denton, Larry W. Denton, age 75, is a United States veteran. Funeral Mass will be Monday at 10:30 a.m. at St. Gerald Lakeview Chapel, 7859 Lakeview Street. Memorials requested to Disabled American Veterans, the DAV, Bethany Funeral Home on 82nd and Harrison are handling arrangements. Draper, Helen L. Draper, age 90, passed away July 12, 2017. She was a resident of Gretna, Nebraska. Services will be Saturday, 11 a.m. at Resurrection Lutheran Church, 152 South McKenna Avenue. Memorials to Resurrection Lutheran Church, Roadrunners Group, Tangier Shrine, or Alzheimer's Association. Roeder Mortuary, Gretna Chapel, is in charge of arrangements. Epstein, Lucille Epstein, age 95, passed away July 19, 2017. Services Friday, July 21st at 1 p.m. at the Beth El Cemetery, Chapel, 84th and L. Memorials to American Heart Association or Beth El Synagogue. Jewish Funeral Home is in charge of arrangements. Glenn, Carol J. Glenn, age 85, died June 22nd, 2017. Memorial services will be Friday, July 21st at the Rockbrook United Methodist Church. Heafy Hoffman, DeWarwick and Cutler, Bel Air Chapel, in charge of arrangements. Griffin, Ralph Edward Griffin, age 61, died July 10, 2017. Funeral will be July 22nd, 2017, 2 p.m. Both will take place at the Good Shepherd Funeral Home, who is also in charge of arrangements. Herman, Donald F. Herman, memorial services Friday, July 21st at the Atonement Lutheran Church. Mr. Herman was 85. Kelly, Maxine Marie Watts Kelly, age 82, passed away July 15, 2017. Funeral services 11 a.m. Saturday, West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home. The family will be accepting memorials to be applied toward a paralegal scholarship established in Maxine's name. Kohanek, John D. Kohanek, age 60, died July 6, 2017. Memorial Mass at 10 a.m. at St. Margaret Mary's Catholic Church. In lieu of flowers, memorials to St. Margaret Mary's Church. John A. Gentleman mortuaries are in charge. Lewis, William Bill Lewis, age 67, died July 14, 2017. Mass of Christian burial will be July 21st at St. Pius X Catholic Church. Heathy, Hoffman, Dwork, and Cutler in charge of arrangements. Meyer, Eugene Lee Myers, 83, a United States veteran. His services will be July 22nd at 10:30 a.m. at First Lutheran Church in Blair, Nebraska. In lieu of flowers, donations are suggested to the ALS Mid-America chapter, Campbell Amen Funeral Home in charge and Blair. Money, Walter D. Money, age 84, passed away July 17, 2017. He is a U.S. veteran, and services will be held Monday, July 24th at 11 a.m. at Pacific Street Chapel of the John A. Gentleman Mortuary on 141st and Pacific. Preman Boosley, Michael S. Preman Boosley. I may be mispronouncing that name. It's Premanbuesley. He passed away July 3rd, 2017. Arrangements are still pending. Heafy Hoffman Dwork Cutler Beller Chapel is in charge of arrangements. Richmond, Heil Vance Richmond, age 90, also a United States veteran. Celebration of Life will be held on Saturday, July 22nd at 3 p.m. at the Bel Air Chapel of Heafy, Hoffman, Dwork, and Cutler. Family suggests donations to the Planetary Society you can get more information on that from Heafy, Hoffman, Dwork, and Cutler. Savanju, Philip Savanju, age 60, passed away July 30th. Complete notice will be later, but services will be held on Tuesday, July 25th at 11:15 a.m. at St. Cecilia's Cathedral. John A. Gentleman Mortuary is in charge. Scott, Jeannie Plunkett Scott, age 85, passed away July 19, 2017. Services will be held Wednesday, July 26 at 10 a.m. at St. Margaret Mary Catholic Church. John A. Gentleman Mortuary in charge. Swan, Joan Titus Swan, age 91, passed away July 14, 2017. She was a Hastings resident, and services will be Monday, July 24, 2017 at 2 p.m. at First Presbyterian Church in Hastings. Livingston Butler Colon Funeral Home in Hastings is in charge. Stevenson Howard A. Stevenson, age 86, passed away June 30, 2017 in Antioch, California. Services are being held July 23rd at Antioch Church, 3654 Miami Street in Omaha. Summers, James Wesley Summers, a United States veteran, age 86. A memorial brunch will be held on Saturday, July 22nd at 10 a.m. at Countryside Community Church at 87th and Pacific. In lieu of flowers, please send your donations to Countryside Community Church. Heafy, Hoffman, Dwork, and Cutler are in charge. Watts, Donald P. Watts, age 61, passed away July 15, 2017. Memorial services Friday, 3 p.m. at the John A. Gentleman Pacific Street Chapel. And finally, Wolf, Mardella Josephine Wolf, age 100, of Blair, Nebraska. Funeral services 10:30 a.m. Friday at Emmanuel Lutheran Church, and burial at Blair Cemetery. Campbell Amen Funeral Home is in charge.
Listeners' memorials to the Radio Talking Book Network are tax deductible and will go a long way in keeping Radio Talking Book on the air. Please keep Radio Talking Book in mind when memorials are listed as donor's choice or your favorite charity. Donors should be sent to Radio Talking Book Network, 7101 Newport Avenue, Suite 205, Omaha, Nebraska, 68152. Thank you for being a Radio Talking Book Network listener and supporter, and Howard and I will be right back after a short break with editorials, today's living entertainment, business and markets, and sports.
And thank you very much, Bob Cotton and Howard Buckman, for reading the first hour.
Sean Spicer just resigned.
Yeah.
Spokesperson for the president.
Just a moment.
He just resigned.
What I'd like to do is
He is
to
upset on the new
present
communications director that Trump
for you.
put in place.
The menu for today is Pelican Welcome Man.
Friday, the 21st. Meatballs with stroganoff gravy over brown rice. Oregon blend vegetables. Pumpernickel bread with margarine. Peach cobbler and a pint of 1% milk.
And thank you for that, Ann Pelican. You can hear this menu again about 1 p.m. following Community Conversations today and just before Joni Laird reads from the bookshelf for today. Hello, this is Paul Stebbins with a little promo for this week's Saturday Night at the Movies presentation. It's a good one, and Ann Pelican has picked another good movie, as she always does, keeping with the theme for this month of pets and animals. We are presenting The Secret Life of Pets. This movie came out in 2016. I think it's rated G, and it's a good one. We saw it when it came out in the theater, and it basically is about a New York apartment and pets and what they do when they're left alone and their masters are not with them. So it's kind of funny, and I would classify it as more or less of a comedy, and certainly it will be entertaining. So we invite all of our listeners to please tune in this coming Saturday, July 22nd at 6:30 p.m. for the audio-described movie, The Secret Life of Pets. And please keep in mind this movie is repeated once again the following Sunday. That would be July 23rd at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. And we hope you'll be there for that, and we hope you'll stay tuned to the Radio Talking Book Network in Nebraska. That is whom you're listening to right now. And now let's head on back to our Studio A and welcome back our fine readers. Let's welcome back Bob Gotting and Howard Bachman.
Thank you, Paul, and welcome back, listeners. We'll start out the second half with the editorials and opinion articles from our local papers. From the Lincoln Journal-Star, an editorial entitled Sessions Wrong to Reinstate Forfeiture Practice. The Fourth Amendment of the Constitution protects Americans against unreasonable searches and seizures. The same can no longer be said about the Justice Department. Attorney General Jeff Sessions issued a directive Wednesday reinstating the controversial practice of adopted forfeiture, expanding the ability of law enforcement to take possession of assets belonging to suspects, even if they haven't been or won't be charged with a crime, under civil law, and later profit from the assets so long as the low bar of probable cause is met. This is why adoptive forfeiture is a bad deal for Americans, and more than 24 states restricted the process in recent years. In few places will Sessions' change be felt more acutely than Nebraska, a leader in forfeiture reform. Last year, the legislature passed a laudable measure that banned permanent asset seizures by law enforcement until a suspect was convicted of a crime, and limited when the less restrictive civil forfeiture process could be used. Now it's all but mute, as local law enforcement can skirt more restrictive state laws in favor of the far more permissive federal standards. Although Sessions' directive includes modest safeguards against abuse, most notably requiring more detail from law enforcement on probable cause and notifying people of their rights, his agency took a net step backwards. His document doesn't address the major concerns about the practice of forfeiture. The Constitution requires the presumption of innocence until a person is found guilty in court by requiring those whose assets are seized to sue for their return. The courts are essentially holding those people as guilty until being proved innocent. Equitable sharing, which was suspended along with adopted forfeiture at the federal level in 2015, allows law enforcement agencies to keep up to 80% of proceeds while sharing at least 20% with federal authorities. This federal policy encourages local law enforcement to seize assets and police for profit, allowing law enforcement agencies to circumvent state laws and instead operate under the far less onerous federal guidelines. The Justice Department has overruled the local control Republicans vociferously defend. Pivot in favor of restoring the adoptive forfeiture runs counter to the platform adopted at last summer's Republican National Convention, which accurately notes, when the rights of the innocent can be so easily violated, no one's rights are safe. We call on Congress and state legislatures to enact reforms to protect law-abiding citizens against abusive asset forfeiture tactics. Seizing the ill-gotten gains of a person tried and convicted in court is wholly defensible for local, state, and law enforcement agencies. But Sessions' directive reopens a dangerous Pandora's box that disregards both the due process rights of Americans and self-rule of state governments. Howard?
Thank you, sir. This is from the editorial page of the Omaha World Herald. It's an editorial that appeared in the Chicago Tribune. The title of it is Campus Sexual Assault Cases Best Handled by Police. And it reads as follows. For decades, many colleges chose to handle most sexual crime allegations on campus rather than reporting them to local police. That often led to the belief that university officials and campus security officers were more interested in protecting the university's reputation than in helping police and prosecutors aggressively pursue allegations of sexual assault. In 2011, the Obama administration issued a 19-page Dear Colleague letter that urged colleges to more aggressively investigate those allegations and encourage victims to come forward. The administration warned schools they could forfeit millions in federal funding if they remained lax. That federal scrutiny produced results. In May 2014, 55 colleges were under investigation by the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights for the handling of sexual violence cases. As of July 12, there were 344 such cases under investigation at 242 institutions. Enter new Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, who has been listening to advocates, rape survivors, college administrators, and accused students to decide if the department's Dear Colleague guidance should be rescinded or changed. We don't know if colleges are handling campus sex assault cases better than they did before 2011. But whatever DeVos decides, we know this much. Sexual assault on campus or anywhere else is a terrible crime that ruins lives. It wrecks the lives of victims and often the perpetrators. It haunts people who are accused but innocent. And it traumatizes those who watch an attacker walk free. Sexual assault is pervasive on campuses and off. More than 20% of female undergraduates at an array of colleges said they were victims of one form or another of sexual assault or misconduct, according to a 2015 survey by the Association of American Universities. Young women who don't attend college actually have a higher chance of being sexually assaulted than their college peers, according to a federal figure released in 2014. It shouldn't matter if the crime takes place in a house, a corporate office, or a campus dorm. Investigating it and, when appropriate, prosecuting it and punishing the assailant is a job civil authorities, not occupants of the house, bosses of the corporation, or personnel on campus. Why not campus officials and faculty members, some of whom play the role as judges and jurors? Because many schools lack the resources and expertise of local police to investigate such crimes, let alone a professionally processed physical evidence. Law enforcement officials find sexual assault cases on or off campus challenging. Often these encounters involve alcohol or other drugs and boil down to conflicting he said, she said accounts of whether sexual contact was consensual. Sometimes victims decline to pursue charges, but those problems are common to many criminal investigations. Civil authorities who have no agenda to protect a school or to shortchange an alleged victim or perpetrator still are the best suited to mete out justice. More reason for college administrators to swiftly hand over allegations of rape and other sex crimes to people best qualified to deal with them, local cops and prosecutors. We hope DeVos makes that a top priority. One option would be to rewrite the 2011 letter. Dear colleagues, someone reports a campus sexual assault. Call the police, plain and simple.
These are letters to the editor to the Lincoln Journal-Star. There's only two of them. Richard Dale Sullivan of Lincoln writes, I've changed my mind about the Trump tweets. I used to consider them beneath the office of the presidency, which they are. The ramblings of a seriously deranged man, which they are. Vile, which they are. An embarrassment to our country, which they are. And blah, 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 which they are. But I've come to see that it is those very tweets that are undermining the Trump agenda. So I say to the president, tweet on, you contemptible lunatic man baby. For the sake of our democracy and our nation, tweet, tweet, and tweet again. Let the Trump tweet trash reign. Your junk, jetsam, baloney, and rubbish tweety thoughts are such sweet music to all true patriots. Never stop. Elizabeth Mysick of Lincoln writes, I hope that Mr. Don Tilley, should God Bless America July 17th article, realizes that his commentary regarding Hobby Lobby has a cost. He has effectively held Hobby Lobby responsible for every ill of the nation and attempted to remove everyone's right to use God bless in any way. I find this to be probably not workable. According to his definition, a person who says God bless America must be able to fix government, eradicate sin from human nature, stop global warming, free the spirit from fear, and ensure that everyone loves everyone. So we are not able to say God bless unless it means all of these standards. I know of no human or organization on this earth who could live up to that tall order. I can agree with many of Tilley's points regarding the state of humanity. However, I cannot, in good conscience, hold Hobby Lobby responsible for all that ails us. So thank you to Hobby Lobby for publicly asking for the blessings that we so dearly need, as I believe this is all they really meant to do. God bless you.
Thank you, Bob. In the Omaha World Herald, the Public Post has about a half a dozen letters. The first one from Marilyn Felon from Omaha. She writes, the very interesting headline on the World Herald July 19th editorial caught my eye. Don't let drugs kill prisoners. I thought maybe it would caution against execution by lethal injection. Nope, that wasn't what the article about. I guess it's a tragedy if someone dies of a drug overdose while in prison, but laudable when the overdose is administered on purpose by sane and sober staff. The next letter from Joyce Montgomery. I thought the July 4 Public Post letter, an expression of joy and anger by the Reverend Margaret D. DeGraw, was great until the last paragraph, that is. She wrote, quote, perhaps there is a spot in the country away from Omaha where people can use fireworks without disturbing their neighbors, our veterans, and our pets, unquote. I've lived in the country most of my life. I had a horse hurt from fireworks so badly her wound couldn't be sewn closed. Where wheat is grown, the dead grass lies in the pasture. The fire risk is very high. These fires can put people, homes, and animals at risk. And in the country, we have a volunteer fire department. Just because we live in the country doesn't mean we enjoy M13 bombs so loud they sound like a bomb. We country folks and animals can hear, and we have feelings too. This is another solution, not in my backyard. The next one is from Marcia Anderson in Omaha. Governor Pete Rickus is getting closer to completing his first term, and it is time to grade Nebraska's progress under his leadership. According to the July 13 World Herald, tax review is falling, and our governor is stressing budget restraint. Meanwhile, the Nebraska State Patrol and the Department of Corrections have serious problems. Critical infrastructure, including roads and bridges, need investment, has been reinstated with no way to enforce such a penalty, and our employment rate is low with a need for skilled workers. One of Nebraska's Medicaid managers faces sanctions for not paying providers, and Ricketts vetoed some funding for the developmentally disabled and social services, further eroding the safety net that these Nebraska citizens once had. In the private sector, a CEO with declining revenue and critical needs for investment and no real plan to address these issues except cutting more costs and revenue tax cuts usually means closing the business or getting new leadership. Nebraska needs a leader with a reasonable plan that provides funding for critical government services. The next one is from John Berger in Omaha. Why do we have Democrats and Republicans are in power? Nothing gets done. When the Republicans are in power, nothing gets done. We elect people who want to work for the betterment of the United States. Political infighting is a national pastime. Their offices should be in their own state. Their public servants should vote electronically, use video conferencing, and be available locally to their own constituents. There are many lawmakers who use a party affiliation to get elected and then change their colors once in office. They should be voted out. They cannot balance a checkbook, so they continue to raise the debt ceiling to support their own agendas. Many elected officials only work for special interests. They may say they just want to serve, but it is themselves whom they serve in a grand fashion. They have a huge staff and they get lavish benefits. We've been told to show respect for these people, but they don't respect us, those of us who voted them in office in the first place. The next one is from Stephen Bloodworth of Omaha. I strongly disagree with the July 17 Public Pulse writer Walter Joyner, that the federal government has no right to collect voter data to protect against voter fraud. Data currently asked for, which includes names, addresses, party affiliations, elections voted in since 2004, is consolidated collection of information which the government already has or could easily access. I might add that Canada requires one of the following of its voters who wish to vote in person at an Election Canada office, at advanced polls, or on election day. An original piece of government-issued ID with photo, name, and address. 2 original pieces of authorized ID, such as birth certificate, travel card, etc. Voters without ID showing a current address must take an oath and have a voter ID voucher for them. I say let's combat all voter fraud by following the voter guidelines used by our great neighbor to the north. And the last one comes from Dominic Plilstow. I recently fell and was seriously injured. Within seconds, a number of people stopped and ran to my aid, even calling 911. So many are still checking to see if I'm okay. Don't tell me there are no caring people out there. They're everywhere and probably saved my life. Thanks to the hospital personnel as well. And that's the Public Pulse from the Omaha World Herald.
And we'll turn now to the lighter sides of our papers with today's Living and Entertainment and the Ask Amy column. Dear Amy, my wife and I recently bought a beautiful new house that we are very happy with. We moved here in the winter and now it's summertime. We are all spending more time out on our decks. Two of our new neighbors frequently have loud parties outside well past 10 p.m. It's concerning to us because we get up at 5 a.m. every day for work. And because my mother lives with us and her bedroom is very close to the noise, we hesitate to say anything because we don't want to start out on the wrong foot and create bad blood. It was so loud until late the other night that I wanted to call the police, but my wife asked me not to. I just can't believe people would be so inconsiderate. How can we politely get our point across without creating warfare? Should I just put up and shut up? Dear Avid, if your house is brand new and not just new to you, your neighbors have never had to think about anyone living where you live. You should start by assuming that they aren't aware of how much the sound travels on these otherwise quiet summer nights. Consider the idea that you are simply letting them know. Don't use words like warfare or bad blood. That kind of thinking is needlessly inflaming a situation that might be easily handled. The next time this happens, if you feel it is safe to do so, I assume it is, you should knock on your neighbor's door or call them if you have their number. Introduce yourself and say, hey, it's late and the sound really carries. Could your group take it inside, or could you ask your guests to be quieter? Check with the local sound ordinances where you live. Many places restrict loud noises and music after 10 p.m. on a weekday and 11 or 12 on a weekend. If you communicate clearly and respectfully and your neighbors repeatedly party into the night, your next step would be to call the police. Dear Amy, is it common for people to get cynical and angry at life as they age? I have known my wife for more than 25 years. When I first met her, she was fun and happy, even though she had just left an abusive and terrible marriage. Now at 61 years of age, she is always complaining about the people she works with, how overwhelmed she is, how she hates working for the idiot owner, and how most of the people that she works with don't do anything all day. Her dad was abusive when she was young, always telling her how stupid she was. Her father has since died, but she seems to hang on to the past. When we met 25 years ago, both of us were broke, and now we are very well off. She has everything she has always wanted and more. I often tell her how much I love her, but she always finds something to be miserable about. She says I treat her like a queen, but she reminds me of an old, cranky, and sour person who always looks at the glass as half empty. I tend to be happy, and I have a sunnier disposition, but I worry about her. What can I do? Signed, Sad for my wife. Dear Sad, it is common for people to get cynical and angry later in life, if they have the sort of background your wife has. Her early experiences have engraved a script of sorts onto her emotions. As she gets older and feels more stressed, she lacks the resiliency and the tools to cope. Please understand that your wife's problems might be bigger than your love and assurances can tamp down. Tell her, I'm worried about you. You seem so unhappy all the time. I think it might really help you to talk to a counselor. Dear Amy, I really recognize myself in the letter from Must Love Dogs, the woman who had developed a strong crush, you call it a fixation, on a man at the dog park. I am a perfectly rational person, and yet I had a similar experience with someone at work. I never thought I would say this, but staying away and limiting contact eventually did break the spell, just as you suggested. When I look back, I don't know what I was thinking. Not crushed. Dear Not Crushed. I think this is probably more common than most people realize.
Thank you, Bob. This article from the living section of the Omaha World Herald is written by Anna Lynn Thomas. She also can be reached at momaha.com. And the article has to do with, oh, the injustice. Her kids look nothing like her. My infant, Poppy, looks nothing like me. It's devastating. Her older sister looks nothing like me either. So this has been a particularly harsh, swift kick in the jewels. Some friends, I think there's only one, have tried to assure me many times, saying, she looks just like you, whenever I post a photo of Poppy on Facebook. But she's a liar. A well-intentioned liar, but she's a liar nevertheless. My little pudding, to be very specific, looks nothing like me. Poppy is a Poppy is a ginger, a fiery grinner at that. Don't get me wrong, she's delectable. Everything about her makes me all crazy inside, like I'm filled with bubbles and sud and little birdies singing. The gorgeous red fuzz just sends me over the moon. But I'm Sicilian, okay? I have brown hair and brown eyes and no Sicilian traits. And I delivered a fair-skinned, green-eyed ginger baby whose face is a freaky replica of my husband's face. A Snapchat face swap, you would just think my husband was clean-shaven and in desperate need of dentures. What kind of grave injustice is this? I remember my best friend came over to meet my firstborn, Lucy. She was rocking her, and Lucy had a pacifier in her mouth. I was complaining that my tiny beloved looked nothing like me, and she assured me that that wasn't the case. Then Lucy popped her pacifier out and changed the game. Okay, yep, she's so Rob. Wow, yep, looks nothing like you. Geez, she looks so much like Rob, it's freaky. All right, I get it, good grief. Now Poppy has come along, and her betrayal runs deep. What more do I have to sacrifice so one of my babies has some small resemblance to me? I waddle around carrying them, bore hemorrhoids for them, and drank coconut water for them. And frankly, coconut water makes me gag a little. My pregnancy-induced breasts had me buy bras at the tail end of the alphabet. I got rash burn between my thighs in the summer, reduced to pick things up off the floor for months, ate ice cream in bed at midnight, feeling guilty about it in the morning, and had to shut off a Land Before Time halfway through because I was crying so hard. Shall I go on? And for what sacrifice? I don't even get an eye color, eye shape, hair color, skin color, anything. Was I just a vessel to produce my husband's clones? Many people have tried to comfort me, assuring me that babies most often look like their fathers in the beginning, an evolutionary phenomena so fathers will care for their provided resources to the mother and baby with confidence. You know, before Maury Povich and DNA tests were available. But is this actually true or folklore to help mothers like me feel better about things? Well, turns out it's true. Yes, well, maybe. According to a 1995 study in Nature, scientists attempted to put their folklore to the test by having group members match infants with their fathers and mothers. Their success rate of properly matching them to their fathers was much higher than moms. Another study took headshots of a group of people and morphed them into baby faces without their knowledge. The men were much more likely to indicate they would adopt or spend time with the babies that had their characteristics. So there you have it. Nature has created my babies as Rob replicas, so my husband will stick around. But soon they'll start to look a little bit more like me, right? Right? Not so fast. Scientists conducted a study similar to Nature's and found that unlike the first study, participants were able to spot the father and the mother equally, according to Scientific America. Naturally, I have disregarded these scientific findings because they only reinforce my worst fear, that my husband's ginger blood runs strong and has eliminated any trace of me in the family's bloodlines. It's worth noting that my husband repeatedly said he's not a ginger either, so our girls are in an anomaly. But this ginger beard begs to differ. So just stop, Rob. Stop. Stop with your lies. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine. So while the jury is still out on whether science backs my girl's betrayal, One thing is for sure, they are cute, so scrumptious, forget it. Worse than any betrayal. I guess I'll keep them nevertheless, and I love them dearly. And that's from Ann Lind Thomas in the living section of the Omaha World Herald. Scrumptious. There we go. Go ahead, Bob.
Thanks, Howard. This is the John Roseman parenting column. Question: we've just been informed that our 7-year-old son has been effectively expelled from the private school he attended last year because of repeated instances of stealing small items from classmates and, on one occasion, from the teacher's desk. We're rather shocked because our son was the highest performing student in his first grade class, and the school's administration promised to work with us concerning the problem. Through the school year, he stole at least 20 items from other children, things like pencils, pencil sharpeners, and several of these new toys called spinners. He's an only child and only grandchild who's been, we regret to say, indulged by both us and both sets of grandparents. We don't understand how a child who's been given nearly everything he ever wanted would steal things he could have for the asking. Do you have any insights into this sort of thing and hopefully a solution? And John Roseman's answer is, paradoxically, many, if not most young children who steal from other children fit the profile you describe. They are overindulged from upper middle class homes and often only children. The question, why would a child who's been given nearly everything he ever wanted steal from other children, answers itself. For the children in question, from whom getting things is routine, there's no excitement attached to being given something new. The act of stealing provides that thrill. Furthermore, stealing imparts a sense of drama to a transaction that has become dull and predictably easy. Specifically, lots of people, mostly adults, are upset and everyone's trying to get to the bottom of things. My first recommendation, therefore, should be obvious. Put a lid on the materialistic excess in his life. Getting something new has to become the exception rather than the rule. It's unfortunate that the school has decided on expulsion after assuring you that they'd work with him. I imagine their sense of responsibility to parents of your son's classmates drove their decision to effect a final solution. There is, however, a silver lining in this otherwise dark cloud. If your son attended a public school, there's significant likelihood that he'd be referred to a psychologist, diagnosed, and perhaps even medicated for some bogus reason. One way to stop the stealing, which sounds as if it's become or in danger of becoming habitual, is to homeschool him for a few years. I'm not talking about isolating him from other children, but simply reducing, if not removing, the opportunity for the problem to occur. If you homeschool, you should provide him plenty of opportunities for supervised recreational interaction with other kids his age. If you decide to move him to another school, then you need to prepare yourself and his new teacher and principal for the fact that stealing was a problem in grade 1. If and when it occurs again, he's got to pay a steep price. I suggest having him write and deliver an apology to the entire class or something along those lines. That may have to happen several times before the medicine takes effect. The success of such an approach depends on a teacher who is affectionate but unemotional and cut and dried concerning disciplinary issues. Generally, the older the teacher, the better, but that's true regardless these days.
And from the Omaha World Herald, countdown to McCartney. Everyone knows that the #1 Beatle is coming to Omaha, and this is written by Kevin Coffey. Year after year, older musicians dominate the music scene. And Paul McCartney, who performs here Sunday, is among the oldest and most dominant. Of the 25 touring acts last year, 8 are over age 60. Older rock acts still dominate the ticket sales charts, but their numbers continue to diminish as death or retirement claims Prince, Eagles, David Bowie, George Michael, Leonard Cohen, Rush and the Tragic Hip. Read in 2016 year-end report by concert industry magazine Polestar. But what exactly will happen to the concert industry when a huge portion of its most dominant acts retire or perhaps die? The answer is, we really don't know, says Gary Bullenwangeny, editor of Polestar. Some high earners have scaled back or retired. Some bands have continued on as members have passed away or retired. The Who has only 2 original members. Foreigners sometimes feature founding guitarist Mick Jones, but sometimes it plays without any core members. Others, such as Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, Aerosmith, and Iron Maiden, have continued to tour with most of their core players, even with most musicians now in their 60s. McCartney is still going strong at 75, and he's just the 4th oldest artist, top earning touring musicians. Sir Paul had the 7th highest grossing tour in 2016, with 110.6 million taken in on 867,712 tickets sold. Paul Simon is 8 months older than McCartney, but his concerts took in less than a quarter of Paul's last year. Bob Dylan is the list's oldest act. McCartney is still a huge draw. He's not doing as many shows. To his credit, he has a good band with him, and he does a good show. If a third of the top touring acts stop working years from now, where will the difference be made up? It's not a given that currently popular artists such as Adele, Justin Bieber, Beyonce, or Coldplay will be equally popular in 20 or 30 years. Slowly, the acts and concert business was founded on are still fading away or becoming shells of their former selves. Oldies but goodies. McCartney is 75 at $110 million. The Rolling Stones, rough age 73 at 90.9 million. Rod Stewart, age 72 at 56 million. Barbra Streisand, 75 at 46 million. The Who, roughly age 72 at 33 million. Paul Simon, age 76 at 26.4 million. Bob Dylan, age 76 at $17.5 million. David Gilmour, age 71 at 31.1. Dolly Parton, age 71 at 31 million. And Jimmy Buffett, age 70 at 20.8. Those are the 10 oldest musicians who rank as the top earners worldwide in 2016. Performers' age in parentheses, as I mentioned, were approximate because they include more than one person. And that's the music news with Paul McCartney coming in this coming Sunday.
We'll turn now to the business sections. And the market is broadly down today, with the Dow Jones down 53 points at 559. NASDAQ down 5 points at 63.85. S&P 500 down 3 points at 2470. And the New York Stock Exchange is down 35 points at 11,909. And this is an article from the Washington Post. CEO pay might not be quite as high as it once was, but the numbers still dwarf the pay earned by the typical worker. Chief executives of America's 350 largest companies made an average of $15.6 million in 2016, or 271 times more than what the typical worker made last year, according to the Economic Policy Institute's annual report on executive compensation released Thursday. The report from the left-leaning think tank said that number was slightly lower than 2015, when average pay was $16.3 million and the ratio was 286 to 1. While that's well below the 376 to 1 ratio EPI calculated in 2000, the high watermark for CEO pay, it's still multiples above where it was in 1989 when the ratio was 59 to 1, or in 1965 when it was 20 to 1 using 2016 dollars. The very highest paid CEOs may be receiving less this year than last when you include how much they received from cashing out of their stock options, said Lawrence Michel, president of EPI and one of the authors of the report, in an interview. But CEO pay remains extraordinarily high relative to what's happened to stock prices, wages of other high earners, or corporate profits. It also remains high compared to what people imagine the gap to be. One study from 2014 found that Americans think the gap between executives and unskilled workers is about 30 to 1. A 2016 survey from the Stanford Graduate School of Business showed that the median respondent guessed the largest company CEOs make about $1 million a year, a gross underestimate. EPI's calculations are based on stock options that have been realized or cashed in by the executive. Yet, if they base the figures on the value of the options at the time they are granted to the CEO, the approach companies use in their proxy reports to investors, CEO compensation actually rose slightly from $12.5 million in 2015 to $13 million in 2016, nudging up the ratio too.
And here are a few business briefs from the money section of the Omaha World Herald. Sears to begin selling its appliances on Amazon. Sears will begin selling its appliances on Amazon.com, including smart appliances that can be synced with Amazon's voice assistant, Alexa. Sears, which also owns Kmart, said that its Kenmore smart appliances will be fully integrated with Amazon's Alexa, allowing users to control things like air conditioners through voice commands. Sears has struggled with weak sales for years and announced more store closings earlier this month, partly due to the emergence of Amazon and other internet operators. Second news item, layoffs begin at Carrier plant that drew Trump's criticism. More than 300 Carrier Corporation workers were laid off Thursday from the company's Indianapolis factory as part of an outsourcing of jobs to Mexico that drew criticism last year from then presidential candidate Donald Trump. Weeks after Trump won the election, Carrier announced an agreement brokered by the president-elect to spare about 800 jobs in Indianapolis, where the company has pledged to keep nearly 1,100 jobs. But some 600 jobs are still being eliminated by the outsourcing, with another 290 workers scheduled to be let go on December 22nd. Merry Christmas to them. Request for jobless age falls remains near historic low. Fewer Americans applied for jobless aid last week, as the number of people seeking benefits stays near historic lows, pointing to a modest job market. Weekly unemployment applications fell by 15,000 to a seasonally adjusted 233,000. The Labor Department said Thursday it was the largest weekly drop since late April.
Yeah, one little, I find it very humorous anyway, article about McDonald's from Oak Brook, Illinois. With McDonald's now offering a delivery service, the fast food giant is looking to make customers comfortable eating at home with a new clothing line that includes an adult-size Big Mac onesie. Oak Brook, Illinois-based McDonald's describes the Mac Delivery Collection as a selection of fun, fashion-forward items you can wear or use whenever and wherever you order. It also includes French fry-themed sweatsuits and sandals, hamburger pillowcases, and a picnic blanket dotted with McDonald's items. Customers can get the items for free while they last by ordering meals from McDonald's restaurants in select cities through the Uber Eats app Wednesday.
Very good. Sounds like fun. It's 11:47, and we're going to switch now to sports. And the first item on my agenda is our own local Storm Chasers, who played last night. Omaha was victorious over Colorado Springs at the score of 6-4. Jack Lopez is making the adjustment to AAA offensively. Defensively, though, the 24-year-old shortstop appears ready to play at any professional level. The slick fielding, short-armed Lopez has started this week for Omaha as good friend Raul Modesti remains sidelines with a back injury suffered just before the All-Star break. Lopez was promoted from AA Northwest Arkansas on Monday and arrived in Omaha around the same time as major leaguers Georg Soler. He made his fourth consecutive start Thursday in Omaha's 6-4 victory over Colorado Springs in their PCL Series final at Werner Park. Awesome being here and around all these guys, people like Soler, he said. You see them in the bigs, and it's kind of crazy being in the same clubhouse as them. I've been struggling here the first couple of days, but I'm sure I'll get it out of it. Once I get going, I'll hopefully help the team win. Technically, Lopez already has. He made a spectacular defensive stop and throw to retire Chris Calabello with a man on in the ninth inning. Lopez said that play helped redeem him from a rare error he committed earlier in the game. The guys were telling me, don't worry. Later, you're going to get another ground ball. He said, fortunately, I did. To make that play to help the team win was awesome. It was an amazing feeling. Lopez, the nephew of former Kansas City and Omaha shortstop Onyx Concepcion, was flashing the leather again Thursday. He retired Colorado Springs leadoff batter Kyle Wren with a strong throw from the hole in the fourth inning and made a nice backhand pick and toss to get Nick Noonan in the sixth. Lopez singled in the first AAA at-bat Monday, but has gone hitless since. He was 0 for 3 Thursday, but the Chasers didn't need him offensively. Soler homered twice, and Cuthbert went deep as Omaha earned a series split with the division leader, beating them for the fourth time in 17 meetings. Winner Garcia matched a career high with 10 strikeouts after relieving Miguel Almonte for the Chasers. Modesti still isn't ready to return, meaning Lopez should go on his first PCL road trip this weekend. Before his promotion to AAA, the career .229 minor league hitter was batting .277 with 18 stolen bases. Lopez said others had always told him he had it in him. This season, he's learned to trust himself. This year, I've put it all together, he says. Hopefully, I can turn it around here and get going. I'm getting my feet wet. I know what the expectation is to be up here. I had never been in a AAA clubhouse. Lopez, who bypassed college ball at Miami to sign with Kansas City, has gotten rare time as shortstop this week. Though it's his natural position, he's played mostly second or third base while sharing the infield with former Creighton star and Royals prospect Nicky Lopez at Northwest Arkansas. It's been different, but it feels like home, he said. I've been missing it, and I'm glad I'm getting the opportunity again, and hopefully I'll take advantage of it. Me and Modesti are pretty good friends. It's tough to see him hurt with the talent he has and the things he's capable of doing. It opened a door, and here I am trying to do whatever I can do.
In Husker volleyball news, they knew it would take a major upset to keep Lindsey Krause from playing college volleyball at Nebraska or maybe even Creighton. But that didn't keep top 10 college programs like Texas and Wisconsin from making the trek to a club volleyball team's gym in Omaha, while knowing they wouldn't even be able to speak with Krause at that time due to the recruiting rules. That tells you the potential that more than a few people see in Krause, who is from Papillion and is the highest profile volleyball recruit in the state since Katie and Amber Rolfson, who also committed to the Huskers before starting high school in 2009. Krause quickly ended the suspense by committing to Nebraska last week, about 1 month before she begins her freshman year of high school at Omaha Skutt. Many in the Omaha area have known of Krause for a few years, but her name went national this spring when college coaches began to more closely evaluate players who were in the 8th grade. Many of the college coaches don't feel great about recruiting players that young, but that's what the NCAA rules allow, so they do. It was this winter during the national club tournaments when the recruiting interest really picked up for Krause. Michelle Lund knows all about that. She's the college recruiting coordinator for the Premier Volleyball Nebraska, the club Krause plays for. College coaches aren't allowed to contact players as young as Krause directly, so the information flows through Lund. She says about 50 colleges contacted her about Krause. In the local area, everybody knew who Lindsay Krause was in volleyball world, but as far as getting that national attention, that would have been about February, Lund said. That's when the calls from Florida, Texas, your Penn States, your Wisconsins, all of that came. There were coaches that didn't even see her play during the February tournaments, but there was buzz. Coaches said, we weren't there, but we know she's there. Can you please pass on the information? Most of the college coaches watch Krause at tournaments, but coaches are also able to come evaluate players during their club team practices, and many did, including from Nebraska and Creighton. Krause's parents graduated from Creighton, and she's attended matches there from a young age. Jarrett Elliott with Texas came up. Coach Kelly Sheffield with Wisconsin came over. Obviously, Creighton, Lund said, our door is always open, and we had several that wanted to pop in to come in and watch practices. College coaches kept telling the Premier's coach they haven't seen a player like this since the Rolfsons, and that Krause is one of the top hitters in the country in the 2012 class. Lindsay, for her size, 6'2" or 6'3", she moves super well, Lund said, and she's got a heavy arm. Krause also got attention because of her potential as a back row defensive player and back row attacker. Most of the college recruiters' first question to Lund was if there was any chance Krause would leave the state for college. For much of the recruiting process, Krause kept saying that she just wanted to keep getting better at the sport. Krause is a gym rat, Lund said, who also is one of the first players to volunteer when the club works with the Special Olympics. She's a multi-sport athlete who also plays basketball. Krause actually didn't have a great start to her volleyball career, something she jokes with the Premier coaches about now. In 4th grade, she tried out but did not make a team that mostly had players older than Krause. She made a team the next year and has thrived since. Ashley Martin, who coached Krause this year, remembers the first time she saw her play a few years ago at camp. The first thing I ever noticed about her is that she was tall and that I saw her hit a ball when she was probably 12 years old. And I was like, wow, that's something special right there. Just the amount of power she could put on the ball, plus the coordination that she had, Martin said. Martin said Krause is very driven to improve. One of Krause's best matches of the club season came during a national qualifier tournament in Omaha, Martin said. It was the semifinals of President's Day Classic, and Lindsay played just phenomenal, she said. We had her on the outside. I don't keep stats, so I couldn't tell you how many kills she had, but she just turned it on, and there were lots and lots of recruiters there. Nebraska coach John Cook was standing there, and she had one of the most amazing games I've ever seen a 14-year-old have. And I've been at 14s for about 8 years now. It was just phenomenal to see it all unfold that early in the season.
And our last sports story comes from the Omaha World Herald, dealing with one of our favorite topics, which is Nebraska football. Nebraska still on 4-star cornerbacks short list. Houston Griffith has heard the criticism since he first started drawing recruiting interest as an 8th grader in Chicago. No way are you good enough, the naysayers would scoff. All that interest from big-time college football programs, you didn't get that attention on your own. Football fans already know Houston's father, Howard, who set an NCAA record with 8 touchdowns in a game with Illinois in 1990 and spent 11 seasons as an NFL fullback and currently serves as an analyst for the Big Ten Network. Now they're becoming familiar with Houston, a consensus 4-star defensive back, fresh off a strong showing through the summer camp circuit and preparing for his second season at football boarding school, IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. People are hating on me because I was so young. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve that, Griffith said. So I just continue to try to become the best player on the field and show that all the hard work pays off. The top 100 prospect in the 2018 class by every recruiting service, ranked as high as 44 according to Rivals, told the Omaha World Herald this week that Nebraska remains on his short list. Looking at them, Griffith said of the Huskers, I talk to cornerback coach Dante Williams very often. I talk to coach Mike Riley. They want me in class. They say I'm a priority and they want me in Lincoln at the end of the day. The 6'1", 192-pound Griffith unveiled his top 7 schools on Twitter on January 14th, grouping NU with Florida State, Penn State, Texas, Alabama, Ohio, and North Dakota. And that's the good news from the recruiting scene for the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Well, it's about that time of day that we need to wrap up and make way for other programming. This is Bob Gotting. It's been a pleasure reading for you today. Try to keep cool.
And this is Howard Bachman. I thank you so much for your time. I'll be talking with you soon.
And thank you, gentlemen, very, very much. Much sincere thanks to Bob Gotting for coming in and Howard Bachman for coming in, spending your time with us today so that we could be kept better informed on your reading of the Omaha World Herald and the Lincoln
okay,
Journal
good.
Star. And you're right.
Didn't want to make too much noise.
Stay indoors, I think, is probably the best thing to do. And this comes
Wouldn't hurt to have a little
each and
red
every one of
light
us
in here
here
that goes on and tells us when we're live.
Well,
You're
that
listening
is
to
what
the
tells
Radio
when-
Talking Book
when-
Network in
well,
Nebraska. We've been
as soon as you can't hear that anymore, we're live.
Okay.
So when that's playing, we're not heard. He doesn't have the mics turned on in here. When that is off, we're live.
And statewide.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Nice working with you, Bob.
Nice working with you. That was fun.
Yeah, we got through it all right.
Go out there and try to not roast today.
Yeah, we ran our dead people a little longer than we should have, but
It's okay.
there's no way around it.
Well, we just start earlier and we catch up someplace else.
Yeah.
That's what you do. So I don't know if they got community connection today, but we'll get out of here and let them take over.
And I will toss the world.
Well,
Save me reading it at home.
yeah. We'll see you later.
Take care, sir.
Thank you too.
Have a good weekend. Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming in. You bet.
are you doing? I'm out this way, so I thought I'd sit down and say,
What you doing out this way?
oh, we ate at that ping pong
Oh,
out there on 90th.
yeah, those are.
Yeah, the girls like me. That's cheap. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. Cause that's a nice area out there. I thought it was things that happen. But things are going okay right now. I get tired. I have to get up real early if I'm gonna do anything at all. I just drive. It's not always. I know it. Oh, I remember my house. I have never worked so hard. And we had the, and then we had I just didn't want to wait around on somebody's bill because, the radon and all that stuff. It would have been nuts. No, we didn't have to do something. I know I had to look at that spring, what is it? I would- And the apartments are really small. And for me, that's perfect. You said it's off the fence. You said it. I would start screwdriver. I'm not gonna do that. It is easy. I would. willing to pay Oh, that crew, they have about 6 people on board. They train them. And I just love to get out of these guys. They really want them on. I go up there and sit there with coffee pot. I sit there, on a coffee, read the paper, and do a little shopping. But I always try to get out by every day. That's just. That's what it is.
Feels good here. Feels good inside. Okay.
Everybody.
So